stone sentinel that loomed imposingly atop a rugged hill. A group of eager tourists peered from the windows, eyes wide with anticipation and a hint of superstition fostered by tales of Ireland's supernatural. Guiding the tour was Connor, a young local with an affable demeanor and an encyclopedic knowledge of Gaelic lore. As the minibus crested the hill, revealing the castle's battlements silhouetted against the sunset, Connor began recounting its storied history. "Welcome to Dunfane Castle," he intoned, his voice imbued with theatrical charm. It stood the test of time through battles and betrayals, a testament to the era when chiefs and clans ruled these lands. The tourists listened enthralled, imagining shadows of past nobility treading those ancient stones. Among them, Isabella and Jake, a couple celebrating their recent engagement, felt the castle's aura nesting deeply within their romantic reverie. The allure of Dunfane's mystical charm, whispered through generations, enhanced their anticipation. As night descended, they reached the castle, enveloped by heavy clouds obscuring the crescent moon. The group disembarked and gathered their belongings, their footsteps hushed by the gravel path leading to the entrance. Connor unlocked the tall, iron-bound doors with practiced ease, welcoming them into the somber embrace of the castle's great hall. The interior brimmed with relics. Faded banners hung beside a grand fireplace. Dust motes danced in the golden light cast by flickering lanterns. Whispers of antiquity permeated the air. It was as if the stones themselves echoed distant mysteries. Despite its seasoned grandeur, an uncertainty tinged the air, ticking faintly against the smoldering hearth. Connor directed them through a hurried exploration, painting pictures of courtly intrigue with his words. The charmed group was shown spiral staircases that wound up into drafty towers, echo-laden corridors, and portraits of long-past occupants, faces trapped in regal stares that sometimes felt uncannily alive. "Most importantly," Connor whispered conspiratorially, halting at a doorway leading to the depths below, "is the legend of the vault, hidden somewhere within these stone walls, a long-lost treasury of the chieftain, cursed and abandoned with his lineage." The night crept forward, wrapping the castle in its inky embrace. The group retired to their rooms eagerly, though piqued curiosity held Isabella awake. Wandering the torch-lit halls, she marveled at how the stones whispered stories of their own, age-old tales of ambition, betrayal, and loss as seen through conjured eyes. She found herself drawn toward a specific chamber, neglected and shadowed, featuring a portrait, different from the rest. The painted eyes followed with unnerving accuracy, a glint hinting at secrets long buried. Beneath this gaze, Isabella sensed an expansion of the narrative, one distinctly guided by the undercurrent of unsatisfied hunger. Dreaming of hidden troves and veiled histories, Isabella meandered back, but sleep remained elusive. A chill invaded her mind, the eerie feeling of being watched intermingled with the castle's intense isolation, a guardian of truths unseen. The night settled deeply across Dunfane Castle as dreams traversed both the living and those unquiet. Suddenly the silence was shattered, an unnatural howling that rose from the depths, reverberating through stone and marrow alike, rousing remaining souls to wakefulness. Connor's voice, strained and hurried, called through the walls. "Come down, all of you. Something's stirring below." Gathering in confusion and haste, the group assembled, tremors of fear leapfrogging across their consciousness. The shadows thickened as Connor led them toward the source of the chilling wail emanating from the castle's underbelly, a passageway hidden behind brushing cobwebs, laden with secrets waiting to emerge. A sense of foreboding hung heavy. As they descended ancient steps into the cold bowels of the castle, lamps flickered wildly in an unseen draft, sweeping through the corridors as spectral figures enfolded themselves from forgotten spaces. Crossing the bound threshold, they entered a sprawling chamber. its walls eerily suffused with a glow that revealed vaults and containers, long unopened. Collections of ancient wealth lay before them, tarnished and bound with chains steeped in ages past. Yet upon looking closer, they shuddered at the figures surrounding the room. Translucent shapes, the ghostly possessors of this forsaken place, stirred, eyes filled with insatiable greed fixed upon the treasure, every covetous nuance etched with a hunger that resonantly joined their unwavering stares. In self-twined terror reverberated through those gathered. Spectres' translucent forms hovered near the tarnished wealth their souls had long been bound to guard. Isabella felt a cold rush, a prickle of dread entwined with curiosity. Their ghostly visages, twisted in eternal greed and longing, were alarmingly articulate, each movement a dialogue between the living and the departed, calling silently for reclamation. Every ghostly eye seemed locked on the group, particularly Isabella, as if seeing her not merely as an intruder, but as a potential savior. She caught the eye of the chieftain, a hollow gaze that communicated a depth of lifetimes, lost yet beseeching redemption. Though she trembled under their scrutiny, Isabella felt clarity blossom within her, a realization born of whispers that tides had shifted, and she was the key. The air grew thick with anticipation, a hypnotic symphony pulling at Isabella's consciousness. The tourists clung together, eyes wide, breaths quickened by the spectral drama unfolding. Connor, though pale, held a fervent light in his eyes, daring to believe in folklore truth given flesh. Isabella, heart pounding, stepped forward, courage woven from desperation and resolve. Her voice echoed in the chamber, encompassing more strength than felt. "What do you desire? Why linger bound to this place?" The chieftain's visage flickered as he spoke, voice like rustling leaves, carrying the gravity of ancestral tones. "Greed chained us here, lust for gold consumed our end, leaving us guardians of echoes. You, daring to ask and listen, might help us find release, a key to unshackle eternal watch." His words sparked understanding, a cursed cycle driven by avarice, needing the selflessness of the living. The treasure pulsed with binding force. Isabella recalled tales of cursed wealth, binding coveters to doom, a lesson in folly. In that moment, Isabella's fear gave way to determination. She had to exchange avarice for redemption, aiding spirits in relinquishing wealth. "Is there a way to free you?" Isabella pressed, stepping closer, the group observing with bated breath. "Yes," the chieftain replied, spectral form stabilizing, hope cresting. "A pledge, manifest through goodwill and action, gifted to the living, restoring balance disrupted by greed, must be honored. Let the vault's wealth serve people, breathing life into community." Isabella nodded, feeling a righteous ceremony within her thoughts, emboldening spirit. She turned to fellow tourists, voice imbued with vulnerability and mission strength. "We can help them move on. This treasure can aid the living, revitalize Eldridge, honor legacy, and write a new chapter." Whispers turned to nods as potential for newfound purpose was realized. Envisioning Eldridge rejuvenation, they accepted their extraordinary part in a tale. Initially skeptical, tourists saw doubts transform into resolve, transcending mere spectatorship. As they began cataloging and organizing treasure for town benefit, each gesture weighed in the spiritual realm. The chieftain's kin shimmered with each act, unraveling from greed. Energy that once anchored now sparked connections, erasing chains of desire. As moonlit hours passed, tangible became ephemeral. Morning's light softly broke through openings, casting onto dissipating forms, a cascade of unity freed beyond mortality. Liberated from earthly ties, ghosts nodded gratitude to Isabella and group, dispersing like mist with dawn's kiss, lifting a film from the world, revealing life's vibrancy, air alive with new energy. Radiance filled the chamber. Isabella understood she joined something larger, a guardian stepping into history, completing her story amid vibrant past lives, liberated by shared purpose. Unified joy swept through Dunfane Castle as spectral release became tangible, a promise honored and renewed. The cycle of avarice broke, gifting rebirth tales through stones set free. Outside, air crackled with rain and redemption. A chorus of newfound affinity rose through Eldridge, echoing truth across hills. Harmony abides. As they left the castle, Isabella felt peace, knowing Spirit's release brought prosperity and solidarity. Starlight graced with wisdom, an enduring testament to courage, understanding, trust. Gentle wind whispered tales to stones, celebrating legacies embraced by life-giving hands. Though past's echoes lingered with redemption's embrace, Isabella knew she and companions secured a sanctuary within legend. Eldridge stood renewed by eternal fidelity, a victorious end to greed. In its wake rose a song, a requiem and renewal, a story for generations, binding people and spirits beyond. Ethan Blake had always been captivated by the allure of the abandoned, of places where echoes of the past lingered long after humanity had departed. An intrepid traveler from Washington, Ethan made it his life's mission to explore sites steeped in history, where the heavy hands of time and tragedy left their marks. His exploits, captured vividly on social media, had taken him from the eerie ghost towns of the Wild West to the decaying charm of forgotten factories. Yet none captured the essence of what he sought like Chernobyl did. A modern-day Atlantis swallowed not by waves, but by radiation and regrowth. Ever since the meltdown in 1986, Chernobyl had transformed from a site of great loss to one of mysterious allure, drawing curiosity seekers like moths to a flame. Ethan arrived in the ghostly town of Pripyat in winter, the morning crisp, the air biting. A thick layer of snow covered the ground, masking the scars of the past beneath a serene white shroud. Geiger counter in hand, he was prepared for his greatest adventure yet, intent on delving deeper into the exclusion zone than any sanctioned tour could offer. As Ethan ventured through the deserted streets, the iconic Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, its rusting frame a skeletal silhouette against the pale sky. The scene was haunting in its serenity, a snapshot of a life abruptly interrupted. He wandered down Lenin Avenue, past the dilapidated swimming pools, the overgrown soccer fields, all eerily silent under nature's inexorable reclamation. While navigating this frozen tableau, Ethan noticed a narrow passageway veering away from the main route, barely discernible beneath the snow and creeping vines, an invitation from the past. Ignoring a flicker of unease, he followed it deep into the woods, the path becoming less distinct with each step. Around him, the forest whispered, a cacophony of unseen life hidden beneath the blanket of white, until finally it opened into a clearing dominated by an imposing concrete watchtower. The tower stood defiant against the encroaching wilderness, and with it came a sign, Tolkud la Personala, reserved for personnel only. Ethan's heart quickened with excitement, the undeniable allure of forbidden knowledge enticing him forward. He climbed cautiously, each step a journey through time, reaching the tower's observation platform with bated breath. There, through shattered panes of glass, he saw a figure in the woods. At first it seemed a mere shadow among shadows, but then it clarified. A man in an antiquated Soviet military uniform, face obscured by a gas mask. Every instinct screamed at him to be cautious, yet curiosity is a siren song. He raised his camera, capturing what he hoped would be proof of an unexpected encounter. But when he lowered the lens, the figure was gone, leaving only questions in its wake. Descended into a growing unease, Ethan returned to the ground, discovering that the path back seemed different, infused with a sense of being implacably wrong, a dissonant melody in the deepening silence. Trees that once bent gently now formed a claustrophobic tunnel, guiding him inexorably towards something unseen. The air grew thick as he stumbled upon an entrance nearly smothered by the earth. A bunker. What drove him to enter, Ethan couldn't say. Perhaps the same force that had drawn him here, a pull stronger than logic or fear. Torchlight cut through the dark, revealing the confines of a command center from another era. Consoles lay dormant beneath layers of dust, screens glazed with age, and the hum of technology whispered of secrets best left undisturbed. He moved deeper into the bowels of the bunker, the oppressive silence abruptly shattered by an unfamiliar roar, distinct and dissonant. It was not just sound, but cacophony, a fugue of voices and cries, each drowning the other like layers of distant conversations, and underneath it all, like a constant stream weaving through the chaos, was a single voice he knew all too well. His own voice trapped in a cycle of desperation and dread. "Help me," it begged, a tiny, keening wail. Panic surged, a predator stalking him in the dark as Ethan spun, the light skittering off walls, each more alien than the last. The entrance was gone, replaced by resolute concrete. Fear cloyed, sticky and suffocating. His mind reeled, searching for sense in the insanity. He was trapped in an echo of a past he didn't belong to, tangled within the sinews of a nightmare, brought to life by the very ground beneath him. But, driven by will or simply the erosion of clarity, he forced himself forward, deeper into the labyrinth, drawn by a terrible need to understand. There, at the heart of this mystery, a spacious chamber unfolded before him, everything bathed in an eerie, living luminescence that seemed to breathe in response to his presence. In the center stood a machine unlike anything he'd ever seen, its purpose inscrutable, its presence undeniable. Stacks of yellowed files lined the walls, folders brimming with secrets history had forgotten to share. Hesitantly, he reached for one, fingers brushing against dry, cracked paper. Ethan's name, bold as betrayal, stared back at him from the document's cover, a dossier diagramming his life in unsettling detail, events orchestrated long before his arrival. Before comprehension could take root, the ground beneath him trembled violently, as if the earth itself rejected his intrusion. The dossier scattered, pages falling like confetti in a disjointed celebration of deceit. He was thrown to the floor, his head buzzing with a montage of pastimes, the Ferris wheel turning, the radiant smile of children long since gone, the ominous presence of watchers, all watching, waiting, unyielding. Time folded, unfurling its mysteries, and Ethan found himself once more before the Ferris wheel, the masked figure watching still, not a mere specter of imagination, but the guardian of an elaborate enigma. The gas-masked watcher was no simple remnant of further disillusionment, but a meticulously fabricated entity, ensuring secrets remained entangled within Chernobyl's embrace. The realization was staggering. His journey had been manipulated, every experience a cog in the vast clockwork of something far beyond understanding. Ethan, however unwittingly, had become both observer and observed in a dance of shadows destined to repeat. Pripyat was alive with the sinews of forgotten whispers, a guardian of lost knowledge that harnessed visitors' specters into a grand illusion of deceit and memory. Yet, in the sudden stillness that followed, the Geiger counter's unwavering silence hung around him like a cloak, signaling an impossible reality, a cleansing not of body, but of soul. Liberation came not with escape, but through acceptance of the pact formed between person and place, past and presence. Now Ethan stood again in the world of light and reality, forever altered by the consciousness of a truth greater than he could encapsulate with words or framed images. Months passed before his Instagram showed signs of life, posts no longer mere glimpses of reality frozen in time, but reflections on the unseen currents of his odyssey beneath Chernobyl's haunted gaze. In his narratives, something eternally spoken between the lines, a soft whisper on the page invited others to listen to their own echoes within the silence. Those captive voices trapped in time's chasm, waiting to tell their story, waiting to be heard.
After the funeral, the house sat still, wrapped in the melancholy of summer twilight. Emily gazed wistfully at her grandmother's old Victorian home, a place once full of life, now reduced to shadows and dust. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and something else she couldn't quite place, perhaps the poignant mix of time, age, and memory. Her grandmother, Agnes Cartwright, had left everything to Emily. The house was hers now, a sprawling testament to years of vigilant care and a place consecrated in family lore. As she pushed open the creaking front door, it parted with a sigh that resonated through the grand parlor, leading to rows of rooms cradling echoes of laughter and the eerie shade of solitude. The lawyer had mentioned one specific area in the will, a room on the second floor, locked since Agnes's passing. It contained what her grandmother had referred to as the collection. In the folds of memory, Emily recalled whispered conversations about a passion that bordered on obsession. Intrigued and a bit apprehensive, she ascended the spiral staircase that stretched under an ornate chandelier hanging above, like a frozen glow of moonlight. Reaching the second floor, she moved along the narrow corridor, pausing before an old oak door whose varnish had long since peeled. The doorknob was cool against her skin as she twisted it gently, stepping into a room brightly lit by the last slivers of a dying sun. Emily found herself surrounded by hundreds of eyes that gleamed as the light touched them. An expansive assemblage of antique dolls lining the shelves, perched on chairs, leaned into corners. Each doll was meticulously dressed, their porcelain faces captured in various expressions: serene smiles, melancholic gazes, soft smirks frozen in time. A slight shiver crawled across Emily's skin. She'd never much liked dolls, always finding them unsettling with their eerily lifelike features. Yet these dolls, once her grandmother's treasures, seemed to pulse with an energy that thrummed gently under the surface of their ceramic veneer. Amidst them, a particularly elaborate doll caught her eye, a Victorian beauty garbed in intricate lace and silk, its black eyes seeming to follow Emily as she walked around the room. A sense of unease tugged at her consciousness, a primal instinct to leave their stilted company before evening's shadow devoured the fading sun. She resisted, driven by obligation and curiosity, deciding to explore the rest of the room before nightfall. As Emily made her way towards the large window, streaked with grime, she noticed something strange. A book lay open on a small mahogany table, ancient and delicate, its pages filled with spidery script in a language tangled and obscure. A sudden chill swept across her as a whisper echoed in the stillness, imperceptibly soft yet resounding within her mind. Startled, Emily looked around, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The room was still. Innocent dolls sat motionless, harmless. Shaking off the absurdity of unease, she closed the book gently, hoping to stall any reverberation that might linger in the halcyon dusk. She left the room behind, sealing it with a heavy breath, and descended to the relative sanctuary of the living room, deciding that she needed to call her parents to share the strange tension that hovered in this house, now all too silent. The phone rang, static crackling like the slow burn of her nerves before a comforting voice on the other end cut through her loneliness. "I miss her, Dad," Emily confessed, feeling the day's weariness seeping into her bones. Her presence still feels so real here. He consoled her with gentle words, reminding her of their love and the legacy of her grandmother's passion that now carried into her keep. Emily took comfort in the thought, yet the compelling darkness upstairs seemed to grow heavier by the passing hour. As night cloaked the house in shadow, Emily settled into an armchair once claimed by her grandmother, recalling bedtime stories and the scent of lavender and sage that always lingered in her hair. The wind howled outside, a low lament that ebbed through the eaves, lulling her into restless slumber. In the hush of midnight, Emily awoke, the dim room unfamiliar and confining. She shivered, realizing the subtle silence was absent, replaced by a distinct, unnatural tinkling sound like porcelain tapping echoing somewhere beyond the foyer. Her throat tightened with an unspoken fear, her senses heightened in the shivering darkness. Compelled by a morbid curiosity and a sense of responsibility to the home entrusted to her, Emily rose, her breath shallow, as she crossed the creaking floor. With each step towards the hallway, the noise grew faintly louder, more organized, an eerie lull spanning between breaths of old walls and floorboards pressing back onto themselves. The stairs beckoned, and in hesitant increments she ascended once more. Yet just as she reached the landing, the tapping ceased, leaving only the vibrating tension in her body and the haunting memory of her grandmother's voice whispering the enduring refrain. "Keep them safe, Emily. They are a part of us." The disquiet had not subsided by morning, and Emily found herself drifting through the house, tentative yet unable to draw away. Whenever she passed the closed door on the second floor, a quiver of unanswered voices seemed to call softly from within. Coffee did little to sober her senses, and the regular rhythm of the day failed to dispel the chill from her bones. Determined to confront whatever unease lay nested upstairs, Emily steeled herself and once more climbed the stairwell. Sunbeams pierced dust-laden rooms, but the corridor she entered felt separate, a faintly oppressive chill lingering in the air. She hesitated, her hand poised against the oak door that guarded her grandmother's collection. Breathing deeply, she entered. The dolls were still there as silent sentinels, expressions ambiguously serene. Yet on each, Emily sensed an evolution, an ageless awareness that transcended the room's musty staleness. The air held an iridescent quality, as if it shimmered beneath the surface, a waking elegance veiled in shadowed deceit. The elaborate doll she first noticed was prominently placed on a shelf directly opposite her entrance. Something about its eyes remained unsettling, following Emily's every movement in the room with intent scrutiny. As she drew near, the feeling of being intensely watched tugged at her mind and refused to depart. "I'm not imagining this," she whispered, recalling her grandmother's voice, which lingered as a soft reminder to trust her instincts, even as reality appeared blurred by ancestral mystery. The book she'd seen before lay closed on the table, its surface glistening with the haze of forgotten lore. Driven by a sense of urgency and intuition, Emily lifted the cover, pinching the brittle edges of pages used to weave the mystic. Lineages inked in quietude, chanting silent stories of memory and longing. A sudden draft swept the room, and the dolls shifted ever so slightly, like half-forgotten dreams slumbering at the corner of one's eyes. Whispers arose, mingling in a cacophony of murmurs as Emily glanced about, stricken by a dawning comprehension of their soulless unity. She stepped back, the quiet knowledge of intention dawning like fragmented clouds, reflecting celestial bodies. Her perspective shifted. In those moments, their faces moved, not physically but consciously, echoing an uncanny aliveness through the immobility. Understanding danced elusively before her until, trembling with an unfamiliar intensity, her focus rested solely on them and the unyielding power they obediently radiated. Suddenly, Emily felt enveloped by a memory, not her own, a fragment of a time shared and a bond unseen. Her grandmother, kneeling before the vast assembly of dolls, speaking softly with the same familial cadence. A language of kinship they embraced, communicating in threads beyond mortal reckoning. The Victorian doll's eyes gleamed, not with malice, but awareness, a vast opening to the expanse that entwined yesterday's stories with today's reality. Driven by inherited comprehension, Emily realized her purpose now entwined irrevocably with theirs. They sought her grandmother's essence, a spiritual tether to a life they'd once guided. Instinct pervaded doubt. Emily discarded fear, welcoming fulfillment long sealed in vacuous silence. A courage that resonated with her grandmother surged through her veins, transforming the room's chilling expanse into one of warmth and light. Drawing forth sincerity from within, Emily pledged aloud, "I will safeguard you," as she did. "You are not alone." At her words, the atmosphere lifted, shadows retreating peacefully into the afternoon's luminous embrace. Wisdom acknowledged in their gracious nods, a silent acknowledgement from porcelain-formed kindred souls. The unease that once overshadowed faded to evoke the comforting embrace of guardian presences. Beyond the confines of the old Victorian house, sunlight streamed in wide open beams, inviting spectres of past and present together into Emily's outspread arms. She stood, feeling not as curator, but as an integral part of a complicated weave spanning generations, understanding instinctively that the ties once thought ethereal were profoundly real and unbreakable. Emily left the room, no longer prey to dread, but bound by newfound embrace of ancestry. Echoing the rhythmic, heart-touching murmurs of bond eternal, the dolls remained silent sentinels, protectors in memory's ethereal dance, brilliantly alive in the whispers of porcelain eternity.
The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden ribbons of light through the dense canopy as 5 friends, Thomas, Mia, Ethan, Lily, and Jake, made their way into the heart of the forest. The air was thick with the earthy scent of moss and decaying leaves, and the sounds of wildlife echoed mysteriously around them. They had just celebrated their high school graduation, buzzing with the thrill of newfound independence and the blossom of young love. Thomas and Mia led the pack, their hands interlocked, whispering promises only those caught in the throes of first love could make. It was Mia's idea to explore the restricted area deep within the forest. Stories about the site, a once government-used radar station long since abandoned, were laden with chilling lore. Among the tales spun over campfires was one that stood out, a game that played you instead of the other way around, a sinister version of the innocent childhood game, Scissor, Paper, Rocks. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Lily asked, adjusting her backpack nervously as they reached the rusted gate, marking the boundary into the forbidden zone. Her voice trembled slightly, masking a deeper-seated fear of the unknown. "Oh, come on, it's just a game," Ethan replied, his tone more confident than he felt inside. "Besides, it's probably some urban legend to keep kids like us out." His chuckle was nervous, trying to convince himself as much as Lily. The group squeezed through a gap in the fence, its metal jaw